Well, US President Joe Biden and his Ukrainian counterpart will speak by phone today amid growing fears a Russian military build-up near the border with its pro-Western neighbour heralds an invasion. It comes days after Joe Biden warned Russian President Vladimir Putin of severe consequences if Moscow invades the former Soviet country. Joining us now is political analyst and professor at Curtin University, Joe Siracusa. Professor, good morning. How is this Ukraine crisis playing out, and how big of a problem is it for the rest of the world?
Actually, it's a very serious problem. I'd say the chances of war there are about 60 to 65%, and I'll tell you why. In the last two conversations President Biden had with President Putin, he sort of let the cat out of the bag. Number one, in the first conversation, he said he's not going to use force. So Putin calculated that the president's not going to use force. And then the second time they had a conversation, the president conceded that he would remove offensive weapon systems from Russia's borders, which, of course, is exactly what Putin wants. And then the third thing is, and this is important, Putin has made it very clear that he regards these drastic sanctions on the horizons as acts of war. Danica, there's no doubt about it. People think sanctions is a free kick at somebody. In fact, sanctions poisons everything, the diplomacy and sort of preconditions everything else. And Putin's made it very clear, drastic sanctions will be considered an act of war. He even told the president, I hope our descendants don't judge us badly by it. And this is, whether the U.S. applies sanctions at China, China on Australia. I mean, people think sanctions is a game. It's not a game. It hits at the heart of a country. And when the U.S. put sanctions on Japan in 1940 over oil, it got Pearl Harbor about 6 months later. So these things have sort of momentum. But this is probably the most serious crisis we're going to have in early 2022. And so, I think we ought to calculate for it. And of course, the other thing, too, is that President Putin here, Danica, regards this as the Cuban Missile Crisis for him. It's only 758 kilometers from the Ukrainian border to Moscow. So if you put a nuclear warhead on a short-range ballistic missile, it'll reach there in about 3 minutes, taking out the command and control center and also Putin in his night's sleep. So he's worried about everything. And the president, of course, is just trying to put pressure on him. The United States will not be coming directly to the aid of President Zelensky. They're just trying to give him moral support. On the other hand, it's very important that NATO do something in the background because we got to have a line somewhere. But the Putin's looking for kind of a neutralization zone to keep NATO out. And of course, I heard a wonderful expression the other day. Putin's not really worried about NATO, and he's not really worried about Ukraine. What he's worried about is NATO in Ukraine. He's worried about the future positioning of offensive weapons there that could take out the Moscow's command and control center. And of course, that's the big game, whether you survive or not in politics. And Putin is taking this very seriously, and the president's going to have to take this very seriously. I don't know if he has the team to do it, of course, because his team seems a little disconnected about all these things. A lot of threats are coming out of the National Security Council, but Putin has dealt with this before. So I'd say that it's a very serious situation.
And how likely do you think it is that Moscow will invade? The US and Russia held that phone call the other day, and seemingly it appeared to be quite hostile. What do you think will happen next?
Well, I think more than invading Ukraine, President Putin wants to wreck it so that there's nothing for anybody else. He doesn't have to really invade Ukraine to cause them a great deal of trouble. But he will if he has to, and he has 100,000 troops on the border there. And, from the Second Gulf War, you can't keep large groups of soldiers on a border somewhere without some momentum to use them. So I think there's that. But I think Putin has taken his options. But to me, the key is he's told President Biden that drastic sanctions are really an act of war. He doesn't care whether they lob something at it or not. And the other thing that we should note this morning, which I noticed in Reuters about an hour ago, is that the U.S. carrier group, the Harry S. Truman and 5 escort ships, including a Norwegian ship, are staying in the Mediterranean waters for this crisis. So the Navy's in the background, and the Russians are ready to go. And I'll tell you what, the Russians couldn't have picked a better time to put pressure on Joe Biden, and they will go all the way on this.
All right. Well, remains to be seen. Joe Siracusa, we have to leave it there. Thank you for joining me.
Okay, thank you.